We are about to start the second day of questioning of the undercover police officer HN118, who used the cover name Simon Wellings to infiltrate globalised resistance and dissent. Today is going to be Dissent TV Day, I kind of fancy. I'm joined by Kate Wilson of Police Spies Out Lives.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated to find out. So last night we got to the kind of defining moment, I think, of Simon Wellings' deployment, which was when he butt dialed somebody's answer phone whilst giving a briefing to his handler and left a recording, and was evenly, took quite a long time.
Yeah, like quite a few months. He was like, he did it in January and it was the August before they realized it was him.
Yeah. So in August 2004, he was confronted by comrades from Globalised Resistance and kicked out. Essentially, they didn't know. They weren't entirely sure it was him. They didn't know whether he was a cop or a spook or just an informant. But they knew they didn't want him around anymore. And
yeah, I mean, he typified then at the end of the day, yesterday, as at the end of the question, he said, tomorrow we'll be looking at dissent. He said, then when I infiltrated well, I put myself in a position to report on dissent. Which I want to hear what he means by that, because yes, I mean, the key thing, I mean, we knew this quite a long time ago, that when he was outed by Globalised Resistance, they didn't pull him out of the field. They moved him sideways, essentially, into the libertarian movement. But none of us really credited it very much. It was like, well, you know, he might have been around. We knew that he'd maybe hung around the media group at Glen Eagles, that he probably had been around beyond DSF. But, you know, nobody remembered this guy. Nobody thought, to the point that when people who did get disclosure from Simon Wellings actually just assumed that it was from Kennedy, and nobody credited it at all until the bundle was released very, very late. Like, we're talking about last week.
Yeah. So last week, essentially, we discovered that Wellings' deployment into dissent actually lasted from August 2004 until December 2007, which is 2.5 years, and, you know, was massively international, supposedly, and
very deep coverage according to him. Supposedly he could have walked into any social centre anywhere and had known at least one person in any room. So well integrated was he into the movement.
And nobody knows this guy.
No,
like really nobody knows this guy. We've been sending his photo wider and wider in the hope of finding somebody who says, oh yeah, I remember him. I mean, you're one of the few people that does.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very short meeting. I mean, and it was only because he was talking to Michael Jacobs, the NPORU undercover officer, who was infiltrating the group I was in at the time. And I mean, literally, we're talking about a less than a minute conversation because I was looking for somebody else and asking if they'd seen them. But yeah, it appears that he was, as we've referred to him a few times, as a grey man, a term that he used himself yesterday about his style of infiltration, which was, I mean, essentially, he didn't seem to make any close friendships
or any real memorable impression on anybody, you know, which probably is a skill.
Sure.
Particularly as an undercover officer, you know, I mean, you know, being known by everybody as Flash probably isn't the textbook way of going about it. But yeah, what I think is significant about that memory is you met him because he was talking to Marco Jacobs. Now, Marco Jacobs was an officer in the sister unit, rival unit. We're still not really clear what the relationship is between those units. The police are very, very clear, very, very keen to put clear blue water between the utterly disgraced and completely unsalvageable SDS and the NPORU, which was operating a lot later, which was set up under the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act and Human Rights Act framework, and therefore ought to have been better, and really is the model looking forwards when they say undercover policing has changed. It's not done like that anymore. You know, the NPORU is the best glimpse we're going to get probably through this inquiry. I mean, we'll see what happens in tranche 5 when they look at other undercover policing, but essentially they want to be able to say, yes, the SDS was anachronistic and it became a mess and we got rid of it and it was replaced. And it was replaced by essentially the NPORU in the first instance, and that's who Marco Jacobs was working for. For people who haven't heard of Marco Jacobs, he had 2 relationships whilst undercover, and there's a whole series of other issues around his deployment that are very similar to those of the SDF.
He is one of the few officers who still denies the sexual relationships took place, which is very distressing for those people who he deceived into the relationships. Hopefully, I mean, we're going to get, pretty much everybody else accepts the relationship happens. The police accepted that there was a legal case brought at the same time as the 8 women brought their case. That was myself and 2 others. There was an acceptance from the police hierarchy that these relationships took place, and there was damages settled. So it's untenable, really, his position, but hopefully it gets more untenable.
It becomes more untenable when you realise that he was mates with Simon Wellings. They were hanging out at the German G8, where Marco Jacobs was with his girlfriend at the time. Very openly with
in one of the relationships at that point. We don't know if the relationship was going or not.
So there's this issue, and going right back August 2004, when Wellings puts himself in a position to spy on the Dissent Network, is when Mark Kennedy and I were very, very active in the Dissent Network, mobilising around the Beyond ESF, mobilising around...
So Beyond ESF is beyond the European Social Forum. The European Social Forum was like this... I mean, it doesn't really matter, but, I mean,
I think it does matter. The European Social Forum was a massive political gathering of... I think there was about 40 to 60,000 people took part.
Huge.
It was an incredible kind of festival of bringing together of different political groups and different political ideologies. I feel quite strongly that they had absolutely no business at all being there and spying on what was a political networking event. There was no risk of public disorder. There was no, I mean, it winds.
We're back again. Yeah, I've just switched. Probably the quality of the video has reduced. It is due for time for us to go back in. The internet here continues to be a problem. We're about to start the second day of questioning. Please follow along on, but by following the hashtag SpyCops. Please like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It makes a huge difference. I'll be doing videos throughout the break. Please join us then. As Jack Shepherd, aka Chris Bryan, of the Undercover Research Group, says, international man of mystery. Let's see what he's got to say.
Yep.